Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to my Fitness Pilates for Healthy Backs Masterclass. Gang, I am really excited to deliver this to you. And hopefully, if you're joining me on the live or if you are doing this, maybe you're watching the recording, maybe you purchased the recording, or maybe you're watching this on catch up. Feel free, if there's any questions about anything, don't hesitate to contact me and let me know. Now, we are going to be doing a little bit of theory to start with, just about why it's really important to keep our backs healthy and things that can affect massively the back, which hopefully that information will be quite informative for you. And then we're going to be working through and doing my very, very best fitness Pilates exercises, which will be beneficial to keep your back really nice and strong and healthy. However, there are obviously some conditions which people may have, and there are certain exercises, certain movements that will aggravate it. And I want you to be mindful of that. I want you to be careful of it. And I'm going to let you know those as well. So we are going to be using, gang, an activation band, and we are going to be using a mini ball today as well. All right. So I'm going to be working and using both of those. And I want you to understand as well that the exercises won't just be for the back. We need to make sure that the areas around the back stay really nice and strong to help to support it. So we're going to definitely be doing work for the glutes, because strong glutes means strong backs. We're also going to be doing work for our core, because that plays part and parcel of our back strength as well from here. And I'm also going to be really focusing on helping those muscles release. So many people hold so much tension in their back, and I want to allow those muscles to really relax and release as well. So we're going to really focus on mobility first, strength coming second, and then mobility release afterwards. All right. So kind of in that formula. If you're joining me on the live, let me know. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Claudine. Good morning. Good morning. Hopefully you are well. And feel free to grab a drink anytime you need to. Anything feels uncomfortable for you, absolutely, you don't have to do it, all right? So Bentley's joining us this morning, it looks like. I think he's just going to have a bit of a sniff around. Good morning, good morning. Gang, good morning. Good morning in my virtual masterclass group. If you didn't click on the StreamYard link that I sent you on your confirmation, then it unfortunately only comes up with Facebook user. So it's not coming up with your name. So apologies about that. I'll just check my end and just make sure that that's all working for you. And then I can say hi as to who that might be this morning. Claire, good morning. Let's just turn that off. And Joni, good morning. Good morning. Sorry, I couldn't see. It just comes up with Facebook user if you haven't clicked on that link that I sent you. So apologies about that. Okay, gang. So a little bit of theory first of all then to start with. So I think it's really important to understand. Oh, we've got a big bumblebee in here. Let's just get him out first of all. Out you go. There we go. I think it's really important to recognize and to understand that gone are the days really where people don't work their backs. Everyone does understand now that the back needs to be really healthy. If I think back to when I first joined the industry, like 25 years ago, 24 years ago, a lot of people used to just train the abdominals, and it was all about crunching. So it was all about lots and lots of sit-ups, lots of crunches, side crunches. And people didn't really train their back at all. And over time, obviously, the backs became vulnerable. And then you'd find that in everyday life, you do something and end up either pulling the back, or the back would be weak. And then possibly there would be then a condition that would happen, say, for instance, a herniation of the disc. Maybe you'd have degeneration of your disc. I mean, for me personally, I did a lot of high impact aerobics, high impact step, high impact dance when I was sort of just for joining the industry. And all that constant pounding on an unsprung floor really played its toll on the condition of my discs in my back. So definitely that had kind of a knock-on effect. I think the other thing is as well, at that time, we were very scared of certain movements. And we believed at that time that extension of the back, extension of the neck was actually damaging to the back. And we would be told various things that, you know, if you were to take your head back, you would damage the discs in the neck, or you would impinge on the nerves. If you were to do any extension work, that would hurt your back. And, you know, these were things that were kind of embedded into us over time. And of course, that isn't the case. Actually, the real true facts about the back is that you need to move it in order for you to be able to get nutrients to those discs, because we lose our blood supply to our discs after the age of 7 years old. So gang, after you get to 7, all of a sudden then you start losing your blood supply to the disc. And it doesn't happen immediately, it happens over time, but definitely there is a knock-on effect for it. And the only way that you can get those nutrients to the discs is through movement. So if you're not moving the back or the neck, then you're essentially not actually feeding your spine the way it needs to. And what we understand now more than ever as well is that, you know, joints move in different directions, and it's important to work through the full range. So if we think about the very, very top of the back being our neck, the very first couple of vertebrae, our neck moves in flexion and extension. It moves into rotation. It moves into lateral flexion and extension as well. And we need it to move like that. So if we all of a sudden prevent ourselves from moving, then we're going to then cause issues with regards to our movement ability. You know what it's like, if you don't use it, you lose it. Same with the spine. You know, the spine can work in flexion, it can work in extension, it can work into rotation, it can also work into horizontal flexion and extension, you know, and it needs to kind of work through those full ranges to stay healthy. So I think it's so important that we understand now as instructors, or if we are a participant, that we need to get that back to move, to remain healthy. There are other things that can obviously cause our backs to become unhealthy. If we've got a lot of inflammation in our body, i.e. around our gut, if we're eating a very inflamed diet, it's going to have a knock-on effect with the amount of strain that we put onto our back. Generally, most people who've got a very inflamed diet hold a lot of their body weight in their center. So they will have, you know, extended body fat, this visceral fat around their center. And that puts a lot of strain onto the muscles in the back, the spine itself. You only need to look at, you know, a woman who's heavily pregnant, who's got her increased center of gravity. There's a hell of a big pull on her back, and she will suffer with regards to her back. But obviously she knows that, you know, it's not going to be forever. And after 9 months, hopefully, if she works with a health practitioner, she works with maybe somebody who's pre and postnatal trained, she can regain her posture, she can get rid of this hyperlordosis, and that back pain will go. I think then we have to think about it in respect of the same as someone who's got a lot of body fat in the front of their body. Not only will that inflammation cause inflammation within the back, around the spine, but also it will put an excess strain on the back as the body weight is being protruded forward. So, you know, when they lay on their back, there'll be an excess pressure coming back. When they lay on their front or on all fours, there's an excess pressure there. When they're standing up and walking around, there's an excess pressure there. So I think we need to really think about having a healthy back in a holistic approach. things that are going to affect the health of someone's back will also be not only their diet, but also how hydrated they are. Generally, muscles work a lot better when they're hydrated. They're fully functional. Muscles that are dehydrated aren't effective. They end up not being able to contract and relax effectively. We also need to think about sleep and how people sleep, and definitely, the way in which someone sleeps. If they're not getting good quality sleep, absolutely that's going to have a knock-on effect with regards to their lifestyle and maybe muscle tension. But also if they're sleeping in a really uncomfortable position, or where the back is under strain or feeling not comfortable, then again essentially that's going to have a knock-on effect for it. So we need to be aware of that. We need to make sure that we understand with our clients, with our participants, or if we are a participant, that the back is much healthier when you are either laying completely down and laying on the back, or standing, so that there is essentially kind of no impact, no strain. In a seated position, the discs and the vertebrae is almost compressed, and that compression over time can actually cause the vertebrae to fuse. I know clients in the past who've actually had parts of their vertebrae fused, not through surgery. It's actually happened to themselves through the fact that they sit way too much and they don't move. They're not active. The spine is 30% weaker in a seated position than it is in a laying position, or it is in a standing position. So I think it's really important to make people understand that, we need to move, and we need to get up from being in that seated position as much as possible. Gone are the days now where, if somebody hurt their back or they were struggling with their back, they would be told to rest. We are told now, actually, movement is medicine. So you need to keep moving. And if somebody has had, a serious back issue, a serious back condition, like a disc herniation, that obviously in their acute stage, they do need to rest and they do need to take anti-inflammatories. But then after that acute stage has diminished, and everyone's different for that one because everyone will recover differently, movement is key, and they do need to work on staying active and strengthening all of these areas. Now, generally with someone with a disc herniation, one of the worst moves for them is flexion, and it will be flexion certainly seated, where the spine is already compressed and coming into this forward flexion position, or this kind of 10-2 position, like brushing your teeth, is one of the worst things that actually aggravates. And that's not just in the acute stage. That can stay with someone for like a year, a couple of years afterwards. The good thing about disc herniation is that you have to understand that the disc has moved, yes, but it doesn't stay there. 9 times out of 10, it moves back in. And it moves back in completely fine without having to have surgery, and just kind of working, with physio or with a Pilates instructor who is essentially geared up to focusing on back care. So again, thinking about like a forward flexion position that isn't great for someone with disc herniation would be kind of like a kneeling position, again, where the spine's compromised, and then coming down, and that can aggravate. It can feel uncomfortable. If we think about our 10-2 position, sorry gang, I'm just going to close my conservatory door. If we think about a 10-2 position to do with fitness, as you stand up, your 10-2 position essentially would be like brushing your teeth. Well, if we put that and replicate that down on the floor, that would be like your sit-up position. So that's why sit-ups aren't advisable for anyone with disc herniation or a bulging disc, because it can aggravate. If you think about the spine, and I'll use my activation band as a kind of a demo for this. But if we think about the activation band being the disc and my knuckles being the vertebrae, if I flex my spine again, we've got this impingement happening on the disc. Now, if that disc essentially has moved, so say, for instance, it's moved, and it always moves kind of laterally rather than kind of forwards from here. But if it moves to the side, if we think about flexing, then you can see that now I've got bone on bone, and that will have that impingement there, which can be really aggravating. Crazily, though, different conditions actually appreciate flexion. So, for instance, like me, I've got a stepped vertebrae, and it's known as spondylolisthesis. And it's where essentially I've got a degeneration of my disc, and my vertebrae has moved, and it's moved so that I've got a step. Actually, for me personally, extension isn't advised. So if someone's got a disc herniation or a bulging disc, extension is one of the best things that we can do. But obviously in their acute stage, they're going to have a lot of inflammation. There's going to be a lot of pain there. It needs to be something that we would work on afterwards, after that acute stage, as the back has started to calm down a bit. Whereas with someone with spondylolisthesis, actually extension isn't great for us. So lots of back extension work, even though I do it and I teach it, if I was to do it for a long period of time or to stay in a position for a long period of time, it would aggravate. And I feel that most of all, sort of if I lay on my front, to give you an example, if I was reading a book, laying on my front in this position, and that would actually cause me the most problems. So I think obviously we have to be aware that every condition is different, and every condition is going to have a different knock-on effect with regards to what we can and we can't do. But definitely with regards to anyone with non-specific back pain, we need to think about getting freely mobile. We need to think about strengthening those muscles and the muscles around it, being able to have a really strong core, really strong glutes that essentially are going to help to alleviate and protect. And then also that we can release that back as well. All right. So without further ado, hopefully that all makes sense. And I'm going to start getting you some exercises through here. And hopefully this is all going to be good for you. So feel free to message me or to comment, to ask if there's any questions at all. Otherwise, guys, I'm going to put a little bit of music on in the background. We're going to start off in our perfect Pilates posture. Now, there's a real reason why Rachel and I bring you into your perfect Pilates posture when you do your Pilates, fitness Pilates training with us, if you're a participant, as to why we do it. Because a neutral spine position is 30% stronger than an imprinted or a hyperextended. So neutral is key. We're going to bring our feet under our hip bones. So placing them together, turn our toes out to the corners of the room. The reason why I do that, and I do toes first, is because it helps you'll feel that engagement in the inner thighs straight away. You'll feel the engagement in the glutes. And we want those to be strong and powerful. We then realign our heels with our toes. Evenly distribute our weight between our right and left foot. And then think about strong thighs. So we're not going to put tension into the joints. And instead, we're going to put tension into the muscles around the joints. We bring our pelvis into neutral. So we rock forward and back. We recognize that this will change on a daily basis. Depending on what we've been doing, depending on our activity level, depending on how much sitting we've done. So I'm going to get you to think all the way forward, point A, all the way back, point C, find your point B. And that brings you into your neutral. And your neutral spine is the safest place for your lower back, the most effective position to engage the abdominals and pelvic floor. Lengthen up through the rest of the body. Grow tall, shoulders come up, down and away from the ears. Neck is long. We're going to start with a little bit of breath work to engage the muscles in the abdominals. So I want you to really feel your breath. As you breathe in, feel the ribcage expand, feel the belly expand. As you breathe out, you feel it contract. And I want you to really utilize your out breath. So every time you exhale, we're going to engage deeper. We inhale, we can relax, we can let it go slightly. And exhale and engage and feel strong. The breath will really make a difference as well to helping to keep the back strong. Because if you think about these muscles being like a big belt around the waist, wrapping around you, as you exhale, I want you to have that belt a little bit stronger and a little bit firmer. But it's not pulling you in for dear life. It's not letting you breathe properly. You're breathing in and you're letting it release, and breathing out and letting it engage. Relax the hands. Let's start with the neck. Take the head over to the right. Roll the head down and round, over to the left. Now, like I said, it's important to move each joint so that it works through compression, decompression, and movement. And the movement, the full range of movement for that particular joint. And a lot of people shy away from moving their neck, and they shouldn't. So let's take the head down, chin on the chest, and look up to the ceiling. So now working through flexion and extension of your neck. And I know a lot of people talk about, you must release the shoulders first before you move the neck. And I understand there is a tiny, tiny bit of truth in that, in the sense that if someone is very tight in the shoulders, it's going to restrict their neck movement. There's actually no scientific evidence to prove that you must. It's not like it's going to damage the neck in any way. So let's take the head then over to the right, round to the left. Looking round as far as that feels good for you. Take the head down and roll the shoulders up to the ears and back down, and really be aware of how that feels as you move. Head comes up, we stay with our shoulder roll. And I think, again, it's important to understand that everyone's different. So some people will get a better release in their neck and shoulders when they rotate back, and some people will get a better release as they rotate forwards. So working with what feels good. Move the attention now, and we move laterally of the spine. So I'm going to allow the hand to just run down the side of my thigh as I bring that over. The abdominals stay strong. We push our hip bone over to the other wall. And we're moving here through lateral flexion and extension. Some people call it horizontal. I'm going to take the arm over and increase this now. So really thinking about trying to get the back to move in this lateral plane. Well done. Can we bring the arms forward and then open? Head down, flex the spine, head back, extend the spine. Now keep the muscles in the glutes, your bottom nice and strong. Keep the abdominals engaged as you do this. And you're working through this flexion and extension of the spine. Well done. Take the arm back on the diagonal. If someone is very tight in their chest, it's going to bring their body forward into forward flexion. You'll find that actually they may look quite kyphotic, quite rounded through the shoulders, the chest. But actually, by releasing the chest, it will help them be a bit more open. So hence why we do a lot of kind of rotation work, especially out there on the diagonal. Bring the hands forwards. I'm going to pull back with the right, back with the left. Little bow and arrow. Look again where you're going. Pelvis stays facing forwards. Again, we're letting that back move. If that feels good for you, stay there. Otherwise, you can extend the arm. It's making that movement bigger. Pelvis stays facing forwards. We allow the chest to open and the back to release. Well done. Let the arms wrap around the waist and bend through the knees and loosen off. Good work. Gang, from here, I'm going to bring this wide into a lateral stretch. Now, you're probably thinking, well, why is she doing these? We're working through our back, I thought. But if your inner thighs are tight, they're going to put a pull on the pelvis, which is going to change the pelvic position, which will put a pull on your back. So I want everything to be really, really nice and open and flexible. So I want you to stretch these inner thighs as much as possible. And also we're going to be working through the glutes. So we need to get these hips to release as well. Perfect. Okay, bring that in. Pedal push through your feet. Loosen off. We're going to take the right leg forward and back. If you need to hold on to a wall, please do, or grab a chair. What I'm starting to do is fire up the muscles in your glutes, but I'm mobilizing your hip at the same time. Well done. Body tall. Let's come across and open. Just allow that hip to release. Let the tension go. Well done. I'm going to take that round the front and round the back. So into a little half moon. If you want to make that bigger, lift the knee and circle and then come the other way. So you're going to go round one way and then round the other way. Let's do one more each way. Good work. And then pedal through your feet, loosen off. Other side. The body is lovely and long, and it's important to recognize here, you can't stay in neutral spine when you're moving your legs because your pelvis is going to move. We want that pelvis to move. But instead, we focus on the length of the spine, and what we're not doing is going into hyperlordosis. We're not tipping too far forward either. We're squeezing the glutes as they go back. Body is long. Leg comes across and open. And our shoulders stay level. So we're not sinking into our supporting side. Let that hip release. Come round the front and round the back. So again, get that to move for you. Well done. Remember, you can lift up and you can rotate if that feels better. Lift. Fantastic. I'm going to do one more each way. Okay, let's pedal through the feet. So we're going to start to think about that extension as we're standing. And I want us to take here a standing back extension. Just with a single arm. If I turn side on, you can see me. I've got this baby back bend. You don't have to move too quick. Pelvis in neutral. And squeeze the bottom. We can start to lift opposite leg. You don't have to take the head back too far if that doesn't feel good for you. You can stay with it facing forwards and just get that engagement happening here in the back. Now you'll notice I'm doing this with my thumb back, and that's important that you recognize. My palm is in, thumb back to engage the back of the shoulders a little bit deeper. Got that? Well done. How about we take both arms? Don't worry, I'm not going to make you do both legs. Not today, anyway. Squeeze it back. Good work. So we're firing up through these strong muscles in the back. Perfect. And the strong muscles in the glutes. Fabulous. Do one more. Excellent. Okay, so from here, roll forward, chin on chest. Come to this halfway spot, hands on top of the knees, on the thighs, and we're going to lift and then we're going to lower. Now, with certain conditions like osteoporosis, it's not advisable to take a full roll down and hang. One of the worst things for anyone with osteoporosis is to kind of be in this position where you're unsupported. The weight of the head is dropped down and they're unsupported within their back. So instead, this halfway position is much safer. You'll also find with anybody who has got a condition, say for instance like me, your spondylolisthesis, we find this really comfortable as well, and take our little cat stretch standing here, lifting and lowering. Roll all the way up, roll the shoulders. Let's take the hands wide, turn your palms up, pelvis stays facing forward, and take a spine twist. Inhale, exhale, change. So coming through, we want that back to stay really nice and healthy in our rotation. So we're rotating round. It's important that you keep your hip bones facing forwards. So you're letting the back just release. And palms up definitely opens up the shoulders and the chest more than palms down. Palms down, you get naturally a protraction, whereas palms up, you get a retraction. Good work. Excellent. Roll those shoulders. Release through here. Fabulous. Take a roll. And I'm going to bring you down to the floor. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Again, we're going to still think about this mobility. Let's inhale our belly to the ceiling. Exhale our belly to the floor, look to the ceiling. So Osteoporosis UK actually advise to take a spine stretch here on all fours in like a cat position. Much better than doing a full roll down. Lifting and lowering. Let the head and neck dangle down. But I want to tweak this for you today. Some of you will have seen this from me before. We're going to come up to our cat stretch. Head and neck dangles down. Now, wag your tail. From right to left, just so you can get into that back a little bit more. And then dip under and through. Push your bottom away. And again, wag your tail from right to left. And be aware of how that feels. Again, we're going to round up. Head and neck dangles down. Move your feet to one side and look to them. This is a great stretch for anyone with scoliosis who may have a bit more of a curvature going on in the spine and one side of their back is tighter than the other. We release, lift up, change sides. Again, we're going to recognize how that feels for us. We release. We're going to pop the ball in between our thighs. Onto all fours, and we're going to work through thread like a needle. So again, we're going to focus on our mobility of our back first before I start taking some strength work. Squeeze the ball, and the reason I put the ball here is because one, it keeps the pelvis still, but two, it helps to engage inner thighs and pelvic floor, and we want those muscles to be strong, feeding into the pelvis to support through the back as well. So place your hands under your shoulders and sit back just lightly. Move your right hand to your temple. We're going to take a breath. Inhale, we thread the needle through, and then we lift up and we look high to the sky. So we're going to bend through, and then we're going to lift up. Good work. We can take as many repetitions as we wish there. I'm going to do 4, and then I'm going to change sides. And essentially with thread like a needle, the more they do it, or the more you do it, the better flexibility you're going to get through your spine. So it's such a key move to do, to practice, to put in your classes if you're an instructor. work. Change sides. Now, of course, you could extend the arm fully, and that's absolutely fine. But be mindful of the fact that someone's shoulder mobility might affect their movement. So at least by keeping the hand to the head here, they can really focus on the spine mobility as they come through, more so than allowing the shoulder to be affected there. So make sure you've done equal amounts on both sides and really feel like the back is getting lovely and warm. You've increased that mobility as you've taken it through. Perfect. Good work. We can remove the ball. So gang, I'm going to place the activation band around my thighs, and I'm going to start to do some work in a kneeling position to work through to strengthen our back. Now, if you're working with clients and they have got a lot of inflammation in their tummy, laying on their front to do their back work probably will be quite uncomfortable. It's also very uncomfortable for anyone with scoliosis, because especially if their curvature in their spine is around their thoracic region, because it means one side of their rib cage is going to protrude into the floor more. So laying on their front can be really uncomfy. Also for men, laying on the front for the obvious reasons, doing back extension work is uncomfortable. And obviously any women who are heavy chested as well. So I tend to like to actually bring it up and do my strength work for the back on all fours. It also aids a little bit more core strength, and we've got this balance challenge as well. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips, and I'm using the activation band to get a little bit more engagement in the glutes. We're going to lengthen the spine, engage the abdominals as we exhale, and start to lift up, lower down. So again, just like when I was standing, I'm leading with my thumb going back. So my palm is turned in. So I'm getting a stronger engagement in the back of my shoulder, working through my upper back, much more here. The fact that I've got the band on is making my legs and bum work harder. It's making my pelvic floor kick in a little bit stronger because I've got almost like an isometric contraction that's happening there all the time. I'm flexing my foot to engage the muscles in my bottom deeper as I'm coming through. So our Superman, we know we love it. It's a great move. But let's add a little bit more here. So I'm going to take that forward. We're going to come out wide to the side, bring it back, and then replace. And your body is lovely and long. We're not going to think about moving the spine with the arm and the leg. We keep ourselves to center, and we're opening that arm and leg out to the side. So what I'm doing right now is I'm putting a bit more of a directional pull on my tummy muscles. So I'm opening up my pelvis more, so I'm working the outside of my glutes. More strain on pelvic floor. Lower back's working harder. Good work. Now, instead of alternating, let's stay up on one side, balance, and then open and close. So we can take, again, as many repetitions as you want here, but you're challenging through, getting that back to work a little bit harder. Perfect. Changing sides, and when you do this, remembering all those key points, the hand turned, palm in, thumb up, flexing the foot, working against the band. Get that to work for you. Well done. Let's stay up, lift, and now pulse. So again, bigger activation through the glutes, bigger activation through the upper back, lower back's really working here. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Let's change sides. Go up, lift. The abdominal muscles are working. Muscles in the bottom are working as well. Good work. I'm going to fire this up a little bit deeper. We're going to lift up one side. Now I'm going to bend and open. So I curtsy that leg across and out wide. And if I want to make that harder, I just lift my opposite arm up and hold it still. So I've got this balance challenge. The abdominals are working for me a little bit harder. Good work. Really feel that. And again. Let's change sides. So curtsy, kick. Curtsy, kick. This is working through the outer glute, part of the glutes. So glute medial, glute minimal. Inner and outer thighs working harder. Lower back's working harder. The abdominals are working harder. It's a deeper pull. Harder to balance. Well done. Yeah, good work. Now go back to your stretch. You would have felt that. So really release there. Feel free to circle around on your axis. Beautiful. I think as well, it's really important now to recognize the effectiveness of the move, the clam. If we come on our side, elbow under, feet go together in line with your bottom. Band around the thighs, but you can do this without the band, which is absolutely fine. We're going to just open and close, but you're not leaning too far back. So some clients might need to be sitting against a wall to do this. The clam is a great move because if you are firing up through the outsides of your glutes, you're actually taking, again, a lot of pressure off the back. A lot of pressure off the hip flexors. So people who find that they've got a lot of pain in their hip flexors, and especially if they actually point kind of there when they're seated, a lot of the time that's because the hip flexors are overactive, and they're overactive because these muscles around the outsides aren't working. So we want to do that clam again to really help support the back as much as possible. I'm going to just show you that on the other side, and I'm going to show you it without the band. And I'm going to change it slightly because I'm going to do an open and closed clam. So from here, I'm going to open and close. Open, close. So we've got an open and closed clam. My lower leg just is comfortable down there on the floor, bent. The feet are in line with the bottom. Again, I'm working through on that mobility. And then I'll just do a couple of normal clams, but without the band. So you can see full range here, opening out. Again, just being really aware of working through those outer parts of the bottom, as so important with our back. Now, gang, sit back and stretch. I do understand, though, that a lot of people, back extension work is effective. So I just want to reiterate and make sure that you're working, if you are doing back extensions, you're working in 3 planes of motion. You're not just keeping it to sagittal plane all the time. So as we come down to the floor, and I'm going to place the ball in between my ankles so that I'm getting a strong engagement in the muscles in my bottom. And either my feet can be down on the floor or I can lift them slightly. Abdominals in strong. Arms go back behind you into dart pose. Neck is lovely and long. Nice and strong through the tummy. So we've got sagittal plane back extension. Lifting and lowering. The arms could be overhead. We could either lift just one arm. Again, thumb up, palm in. Or we could lift both arms up there and then lower. But I want to change the plane of motion. So I'm going to bring my arms back to dart pose. I'm going to lift up, reach down, back and center. Lift. So I'm now doing a back extension in frontal plane. Lift, reach. I'm reaching down the side of my thigh. You can keep your feet on the floor if that feels better for you. Squeeze the ball. So you're not losing that connection. Arms go out wide, and I'm going to rotate. So I've got back extension now in a rotation. Lift up. Looking under that arm, we're in square. My elbows are out shoulder height. Squeeze the ball. Pelvis doesn't need to come off the floor. Let's just do 2 more. So we're doing our back extension in 3 planes of motion, fully functional. Good work. Okay, take a little bit of a release. Push back. And let's change up a couple of different exercises. So bringing the arms forwards, I'm going to lift up and I'm going to rotate back and then come back. Lift up, rotate back. So again, my back extension is going into a rotation. Reaching back as far as I can, squeezing the muscles in the bottom. Good work. Now, if that wasn't right for someone to lay on their front, we could do that rotation up on all fours. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. We can extend and we can rotate. And you don't have to touch the foot. You can just aim there. You're looking where that hand's going. Follow the eye line. Round and back. Good work. Excellent. Our VW is always a favourite. It's a favourite for strengthening our upper back, really helping with regards to our posture. But I know it's not right for everyone to lay on the floor. So if it's not right to lay on the floor, come up to kneeling, bring the pelvis into neutral, thumbs back, and we take our VW here and squeeze and retract and pull back. So in an ideal world, we could be here and really working through that upper back. But if there's any issues with shoulders, taking the arms might not be right overhead, we can keep it back and we can use the ball and we can retract here. So pushing the ball back past the bottom, squeezing and engaging as you press away. We could do that laying as well. So in a back extension position, have the legs as wide as you want, and you can lift and lower. Up there and down. Squeeze. So really working through upper back and lower back as you push that ball away. And after you've done any extension work, it's really important to counterbalance by coming into some flexion if that's appropriate. So cat stretch. And again, just separate the shoulder blades. Maybe walk through the hands, lifting as far as that feels good for you. Coming up and through. Fantastic. Okay, so let me think now about working through the abdominals, but what's going to be really effective for people with different back conditions. If you've got anybody who's very hyperlordotic, so they've got a big curvature in their lower back on a regular basis when they stand, when they move, it's their makeup. They're going to appreciate putting a ball underneath their bottom when they do any supine work. So when you bring them down on the floor, ball underneath the bottom is going to be much more comfortable. They're going to be able to maintain neutral spine a lot better here. And then you can lift up, obviously take any of your core activation work here, whether that be your tap downs, whether that be extending through the legs, single leg stretch. It's going to be much more effective. However, not for everybody. If somebody is very flat-backed, their pelvis is already in that kind of posterior tilt position. So putting a ball under their bottom is going to make it feel even worse. It's going to make it feel even more uncomfortable. So for flat-backed clients, participants, you're going to just come into your neutral spine position. Legs will come up then, and then you can go into, again, your supine work, whether that be a knee drop, whether it be a curtsy tap, a normal tap down, a leg slide, whatever works for you. And again, just thinking about activating and really working through that back. So definitely lordotic clients need the ball, flat back clients, no ball. Favorite with the physios is always your knee rolling. Arms wide and roll your knees from right to left. So just taking that through that rotation there. This is great for mobility of the back. But also if you were to take the legs up into that tabletop position, you've then got that activation through the obliques, the sides of the waist. And they need to be strong as well to have a strong back. You may wish to place the ball between the knees to activate inner thighs and pelvic floor a little bit deeper. And the further you extend the legs, harder you work. Shoulders down into the floor, opening up the chest as you move. So really feeling that from there. This is a great move because it can be used as a strength move, obviously with the feet up, or it can be used mobility-wise with the feet down and just rolling through. Shoulder bridge again is an absolute must with regards to keeping our backs healthy. We can place a ball between the knees if we want to, again for a little bit more engagement of inner thighs and glutes. Never be afraid to start small and just do the pelvic tilt. Working on that very, very lowest region of the back. The area which is naturally fused and it holds a lot of tension. So just coming into this very, very small pelvic tilt, relaxing the arms. And then eventually, as the back starts to free, get more mobile, you can come up a little bit higher into the mid-back. To eventually be able to come up into full shoulder bridge, squeezing the muscles in the bottom, lengthening open through the hip flexors and lowering down vertebrae by vertebrae. Inhale, exhale and lift again when that feels good. Now, a couple of things about shoulder bridge. You should never have anything under the head when you do it. If someone has got limited hip movement and mobility, don't put anything in between the knees. Take the feet wider and feel free to turn the toes out. So they've got a bigger range of movement here. I know that's not very attractive to do that with your legs wide, but it really will help with hip mobility and spinal mobility. They'll get more movement there with the feet wider and the feet turned out. So it'll be much more beneficial. If you want to increase the stretch work, the mobility of the shoulders and the back while you do it, you're going to lift your arms up. The arms are going to stay back behind you, and then you're going to roll the back down vertebrae by vertebrae. Only when the coccyx hits the floor, arms come down by the side. So instead of moving the arms and the back down together, you leave the arms, you move your back first, and then your arms. And that will really help with mobilizing and stretching through the lats, keeping that back really nice and flexible. And again, this is another favorite with osteopaths and with physios. Let's talk sciatica. A lot of people struggle with sciatica, and it can be because of spinal stenosis. Essentially, that's where you've got a narrowing of the vertebrae. And again, that kind of puts a pressure on that sciatic nerve. And that can feel really uncomfortable in the hips, and it will affect the back. It can also be caused by piriformis syndrome, where the piriformis muscle just really isn't giving the sciatic nerve any room and it's pinching on it. Again, that can be very painful in the bottom and going down the legs. A couple of great stretches which are super safe for sciatica. If we take the leg across in this position, and I understand that will be probably quite uncomfortable, but if you can do it, you're going to push on the thigh, but instead of just pushing on the thigh is going to push against the hand. So you've got a 50% resistance here. 50% coming from the hand, 50% coming from the leg. Equal pressure. Hold for 20 seconds. Release for a couple of seconds and repeat this about 4 or 5 times. This is part and parcel of the MET technique, muscle energy technique. And it just gives that sciatic nerve a little bit more space. It helps to release that piriformis muscle. So push against the thigh pushes against the hand, hold for 20 seconds, relax for a couple of seconds, repeat about 4 or 5 times. Another one is if we come up to sitting and we place our soles of our feet together, we're going to place our elbows out onto our thighs. And again, we've got 50% resistance. The elbows are pushing against the thighs are pushing up against the elbows. Equal resistance. Hold for 20 seconds. Relax for a couple of seconds. Repeat 4 or 5 times. And again, that's super safe and super effective. Extending through the legs, bringing that knee in, placing it across the leg. The opposite hand's going to come round and we're going to pull the knee in. Turn back and look back, opening up through the hip and the outer thigh. And feeling that lovely release going into the bottom. Again, this is a great one to help release tension in the back, open up the glute, help with sciatica. The closer the hand is to your bottom on the back there, the more upright you'll bring yourself into and you'll be able to turn. So again, I'll just do that on the other side, bringing it across, hand comes round and we turn. Just back as far as that feels good. Well done. It's always important to reflect at the end of the session on how the back feels after it's done all its work and to help release it. So again, coming back to that flexion of the spine and extension of the spine. Again, if you wanted to, you can do your wag of your tail from right to left, drop under, and again, wag that tail from right to left. Turning the toes under, lengthening out the back of the legs, bringing the hands back. Bringing the hands back onto the thighs. Again, coming into the standing cat stretch if you want, or just rolling up. Rolling through the shoulders. So allowing the side of the back and the hip to open. Take the right leg back behind you. Right arm goes over. Push the hip bones over and press. Release and change sides. Foot behind, really opening up the side body. Release here. Roll the shoulders back. If you've got something you can hold on to that you can lean back on, to press through and stretch through the upper back, through the side of the lats. This is always really effective to get a lovely opening up of the back. If you haven't, rounding the back here, head down. You can always lift one shoulder higher than the other and then change that over to the other side. Releasing. Take a breath. Exhale, roll down. Just as far as that feels good for you. Drop the chin. Come down to the effective position for you. Lengthen out the spine, stretch. And then inhale. Exhale, rise. Finish again with that mobility through the neck. Making sure the neck stays really nice. And flex flexible, that we're not holding tension here. We can let that go. Head can come down again, chin on the chest, and head back. And again. Well done. Take a breath, inhale. We exhale, we find our perfect Pilates posture. We know the importance of that now. It's not just for the sake of it. It's, the most effective position to engage the abdominals, pelvic floor, and the safest position for your back. Take your right arm above your head and your left. Right hand forward and your left. Right palm in and your left. Give yourselves and each other a superb round of applause. So I know there was a lot of information in there, gang. I really hope that all made sense. I hope for those of you that are instructors, that's reiterated what you do and kind of clarified that what you're doing is right, which is always really, really effective. But also maybe has given you some other food for thought to think about, some extra information maybe to give your participants and your clients. And be aware that with back health, it needs to be a holistic approach, not just, okay, we just need to focus on exercises. Because if someone is heavily inflamed, they've got heavily inflamed diet, there's an excess amount of body weight protruding forward and bringing about an extra strain on their back, it's obviously going to affect their back health. If someone's not sleeping well, if someone's not hydrated, it's going to affect. So any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me to let me know. Otherwise, thank you for joining me today. And next week, my next masterclass, gang, is Friday, and that's Love Your Core. So if you want to join me for that one, it's Friday at 1:30, and it's going to be Love Your Core. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you soon.